Hey everybody. All right, give me a minute to share out this link. And we'll get started. Hope you're all doing well tonight. Finally, I'll just share it on Twitter. Hello everyone. All right. Let's pop over to TradingView. So there's only really one level of interest here on Bitcoin that I'm looking at that we just front ran again, which is to sweep this low. We've obviously swept this low, but it'd be very nice to test the liquidity here. Obviously, we can watch for potential SR flips. I'm going to be patient here. I think it's likely that we do see this low, but of course, I've said that many times, and we keep barely front running it. But let's see if we get some resistance here and can come down and sweep this low. And for me, that'll be a long trigger. I'm going to be trading that as a swing failure if we reclaim the range low with my stop underneath the new wick. Just trading this as a range, obviously, but certainly some levels up around 26,000 that I'd be interested in carrying some of this position to. So a critical moment here for Bitcoin, for sure. Because if we flip these lows into resistance, then I think quite likely we see lower. Let me go over to XO quick. Certainly quite a few longs getting stopped out on this move down. It is worth noting the volume has just been very low generally throughout here. But, you know, this last 5-minute candle, 22 million volume, 1.9 million negative delta. It's not a very convincing low. Now, of course, it would be kind of nice if this low gets swept on the live stream, but it may not, so we'll see. I should note, I'm also interested in longing ETH. And sometimes ETH has a way of forming a more defined structure than Bitcoin does. So whereas Bitcoin is in a very flat range, ETH is still in a bullish market structure, making higher lows and lower highs. And this is the level of interest for ETH at this point, seeing if we hold here. Now, I find the most frustrating price action to be and just frustrating because it's a waste of time, is when price comes like down within a fraction of tapping a key low, and then rallies and ranges. Because it's nice just to get that liquidity tested, see what the reaction is if we hold the level. Maybe get a nice position with nice invalidation. But these slight front runs are always a little annoying. Yeah, Anime Treasure is saying will be nice to get a nice long setup in the New York session. Absolutely. Certainly would be nice to come down and tap this during the New York Open. But that's a long ways away. Which, it just means, I mean, obviously if I hadn't just gone live, it'd be a little less annoying because I'd just go do something else. But anyways, we'll take a look at this. I mean, there's not really a lot to look at, honestly, other than to say that I think at this point, like, I wouldn't start longing here personally. Not to say that we can't just continue on up, but chasing this long with this level still just sitting right below us doesn't seem that smart. Surprisingly, not a ton of shorts opening down here. What you really want to see is those shorts coming down in at support, and then price start putting them underwater. You can start squeezing them out. Let me go to the lower time frame CBD here for a second. All right, so let me pop over to Coinalyze. ETH certainly here on the low time frame on this little rally the last 15 minutes, seeing some bearish absorption. Bitcoin not so much. But maybe we get a pullback here and finally get to see what happens. How many stops are lined up under this low? Now it's worth noting, it is very likely that if we do something like this, I'll be taking a long. But I'm always using risk management because this can happen and then price can come down and break down. And I'm really watching this as the key level to hold. It's okay to sweep the liquidity. In fact, it's preferred. But if we're not holding that level, we can't hold that new low, then I'll be cutting my position. But I'm still open to reopen it if we can reclaim the level again. But yeah, it's worth noting, always using risk management. And I'm waiting for the level to be reclaimed. So if this just happens, well, there won't be a long trigger for me. And it is the case that when these moves happen, if they happen, they can happen very quickly. We've all seen that before. Very quick liquidity grabs, very quick reversals. It's always best to have a plan for levels like this. It's funny. I took like a teeny long here, short on GRT. Somebody had pointed out in the Discord. They asked if I would. They were looking at shorting a swing failure of this high, and we came about 8% above the high. But I said in the chat that if you're gonna, oops, where are we here? On the 1 minute chart, I said if you're gonna look for a short, probably here's the time. I posted that here on the 1 minute chart, just looking something like this. Obviously, the risk reward on that trade's huge. It was like a $18,000 short or something, but that I took. I just traded a small short for fun. Obviously, the reaction was quite nice. Lots of alts breaking down important support. I have quite a few shorts on alts. I've been my last live stream, I shared a lot of these, and I've been updating them in the Discord. But BNB, major resistance here, targeting down into this level. I'm usually always looking for hedge shorts. Doge, obviously, very nice level there. Sweeping this high, we are in an ascending structure. SHIB. I did just get stopped out of a FTM long, which was taken at this level with invalidation under here. And it should never be looked at as a negative to be stopped out of a position. If you have a long idea that makes sense or a short idea, you have invalidation. The important thing is that you're not risking, for me, it's more than 1 to 2% of a trading account. You're not taking outsized losses. You're getting out of the position if the idea breaks, and you wait for lower. Now you might find I'll get a little quiet here if I end up executing some trades. I'll certainly want to be paying attention. On what time frame do you like to confirm that it's a reclaim and that you are confident in taking the long position? I'm usually pretty aggressive entering. You know, there's cases where you have, like, you can go to the 1 minute chart and these moves happen very quickly with really quick rejections. And there's cases where there's a little bit more of a retest. But for example, like we have some 1 minute charts. Some of these swing failures aren't identified. But if something like this happens on the 1 minute chart, I'm going to likely just long that. I'm not necessarily going to wait for this or some closes above. If we sweep it and then price wicks back through it, likely will long because this can happen very easily. I have my invalidation. It's not the end of the world for me to get stopped out. But there are some caveats. Obviously, a big thing is volume, looking at order flow. You know, what kind of signs are there that there's major liquidity being grabbed? Is there tons of volume coming in? Are there lots of shorts opening? Is price squeezing back up quickly? If I see all of that, I can just enter. So SSS, maybe I shouldn't say that. He says, where are you looking to enter? Long or short from here, in your opinion? If you scroll back to the beginning of the live stream, I sort of explained my general plan here, which is, this is a long setup. I'm looking forward to come and sweep this low. It's always fun reading the chat here. Someone says, so do we long? Wait, I think that just got deleted. Someone's asking, how can you tell if it's a lot of shorts opening? I do teach that stuff at the LATF, but it's an order flow tool you can use. Looking at open interest increases with CVDs. There's a little bit of a, certainly isn't something you can answer in a couple sentences. It takes a little bit of time to explain and understand. Someone's asking if the low got front run. It certainly has been front run as of now. Whether or not that's going to remain the case, we'll see. Somebody's asking how often I use predictive channels. I use them fairly often. I don't really have an ascending structure here, so there's no ascending channels. There's descending channel ideas. ETH obviously in an ascending structure. Now, of course, very much regret maybe isn't the word, but wishing I had taken this very clean swing failure short on ETH. Someone's asking if I would short a breakdown of this level. I'm not a big fan of breakout or breakdown trading, especially levels like this. Like longing the break of these highs or longing the break of these highs. That's not my preferred style of trading. I'll typically have longs from support. But if that happens, as long as you're using risk management and proper invalidation, nothing wrong with breakout trading. Just reading through the comments. Someone did ask earlier, is ETH 700 possible? Anything is possible. But as somebody who's trading regularly and on a daily basis, I don't really have much reason to be spending much time thinking about $700 right now. You know, ETH is certainly grinding up in a very choppy ascending structure here on the 4-hour. So wouldn't be surprised to see some impulses similar to this, some continuation at some point. But price can go higher and then price can go lower. The way I like to think about levels is this. Like let's say you have a very big level, an important level that you are really interested in trading at $700. Well, then what I would do is I would mark it out, set an alert. And I always think of levels as, I don't know if certain levels are going to get tapped or not, but if they get tapped, I'm very interested in trading them. So what I would say is, you know, there's nothing wrong with waiting for major levels, but I'm not going to sit and think about $700 ETH or $100,000 Bitcoin or $5,000 Bitcoin every day. I'm looking at the levels that I have in front of me. Someone said it's going to 14K, ETH 14K. I don't know if I accidentally said 14K, probably. Somebody saying Bitcoin looks like it's making its way up. Could 22,300 have been the bottom for this move? Absolutely. But I'm not lying. Yeah, I mean, anything is possible. But, I mean, my plan has been, if we come up into this action here, I've taken these longs where we've swept this liquidity. I actually missed this one. I got in on a retracement. And I took a long here. I took a long here. And I even took a long this morning. Right here. Watching the point of control as the major take profit target. We consolidated under it for a while. I did TP1 off my long. But anyways, my plan has been if we break down here, then I'm just expecting the range lows. So just been waiting for that. The thing is, if we rally, like let's say price comes back up, maybe we test the point of control, and we get some kind of retracement with a strong bullish divergence, strong bullish absorption, then I'm going to look for a long later. Someone says, why are you using the 15-minute chart? It seems like you will miss the move because the time frame is too high. As far as time frames go, well, I'm just looking at the chart right now, but I could trade this level on the 1-month chart. I have my levels marked out. I don't really need, like, I think people get either too caught up or confused about um, time frames. It doesn't change the price, right? So if I see price move below this level and reclaim it, I can have a long trigger just knowing where price is at. So like, let's say I know my level is 22,289. I could not even be looking at the screen. Someone could just yell 22,156, 22,320, and I could have a long trigger. Yeah, people have said stuff like that, like they like looking at the level on the daily chart, or they use the daily chart, and I don't know what sometimes that means. Does that mean they're waiting for the next daily candle to close above the level, or whatever? I'm just watching the level. Talia says, I have a problem. I don't trust my system. Crying emoji. That is a problem, especially if you're trading with live funds. Typically you want to make sure your system is supported by back testing and real data. You're comfortable with the math. And oftentimes you need to make sure you're not trading too big, because any system will have loss streaks. You need to be comfortable with those. Henry DeCletti says, why do you have a bullish bias? How would you rationalize the fact that you find alpha in TA? I'm assuming you don't, which is why you're asking. Years of experience using TA to trade every day. You know what, TA actually, if you were in the Discord, you would have been privy. But I actually longed right here on ETH. I shorted right here. I longed right here. I did not take the short, although it was a very technical trigger. There's lots of different forms of TA. Technical analysis is sort of a broad term. But the style of TA I use, I find there's a lot of alpha. It's based around liquidity ideas. Lots of fib ideas based on Elliott wave. If you go back and you study price action for the last 2 years, spend, 20 hours. Go back, historical charts, study 2 years of price action, every pivot, every move, measure every move. You'll come away believing there's alpha in TA, I think. Oh yeah, and to answer your bias question, why do you have a bullish bias? I wouldn't necessarily say I have a bullish bias. I'm just willing to take longs at support and cut them if support breaks. So it's not like I'm saying Bitcoin's going to the moon no matter what, and I'm going to long here and put the house up and no stop loss. I'm not letting go. I'm simply going to long support and cut the position the same way I'm willing to short resistance and cut the position if the level breaks. Volume really low right now on this move. It would be an absolute tragedy. And no, I'm just kidding, but it'd be so annoying if we just went like straight up from here. No retracements. Henry's saying, how long do you usually hold a trade time-wise or profit-wise? Well, usually trading between levels. So, I mean, in really volatile times, it can be short, it can be minutes. You know, like, this was kind of a funny short. Well, I guess on ETH here. Because I shorted here. And, you know, the exact setup was something very much like this. And you're not necessarily anticipating that price is just going to go straight down this quickly. But here, I'm obviously not holding that trade for very long because the target's hit. And then I flip long. I'm going to reclaim this level. So it just depends. But I trade between technical levels. So I'm not saying, you know, some people would say, I'm going to hold this trade until it's in X amount of profit. That's sort of arbitrary because price moves between levels, not between the P&L of your random positions. Someone's asking if I watch the ES. I do. Which is holding up a little better than Bitcoin. You said interesting channel. I'm not sure if you're referring to this ascending channel. Let me turn off this Elliott wave count. Kind of getting in the way. But yeah, I like parallel structures. This price does indeed like to move between them. Henry says, what are your triggers for taking profits? And his quant system says bearish on the weekly. Well, Henry, I don't know what short you're in, but I am indeed still carrying shorts from the high of the range on Bitcoin. Because I trade support, resistance, look for longs at support, shorts at resistance, and cut the positions if the levels break. But I wish you luck with your positions and the continued success of your quant system. Ultimately, the major levels I would like to see run this level at some point, and I'd like to see us come back down and test this point of control at some point. And it just so happens that if we swing failure this high, we get some really clean levels right here. So my absolute ideal scenario, which would go into some version of an Elliott wave, kind of shared down here around 16,000, which is coming up and taking this high, ABC correction, back down into this level. Could sweep this liquidity then. So that'd be my absolute ideal scenario. So long up into this 26K region to short that down into 19,200, and then looking for longs back down here. But this could play out many ways. If those levels get tapped, could be something more like this. You wonder, maybe we have an exact repeat of this front run. This aggressive move down, then a sharp move up into this 25K level, which, just a fun history lesson, LATF members will know. Actually, I shared this all publicly. I shorted the exact top of this move, almost to the dollar. It had been a target for weeks and weeks as we were pushing up towards it. That was a nice short. Tessin is saying, can you please check the 15-minute and see what you feel Bitcoin and ETH might be doing in the next short-term moves? Well, I've kind of gone over my thoughts. Of course, we can just front run the level and continue to range, but personally, waiting for this low to be swept, I can change my perspective. You know, if we see a stronger move, look for positions on retracements. Really, the most important resistance in the range right now is the point of control above us. But we also just have these simple SR flips that you can watch. Those are support resistance flips. Let me but these are very low time frame levels and ideas. But the way I trade, I'm not sitting here trying to guess if price is going to go up or down. So at this point, like, I'm not trying to guess. Maybe the level's front run and I missed my position. Well, if that's the case, then I missed it. And I'll just look for another setup. I'm not going to chase a move. I'll just wait for a new setup. You know, we're testing the VWAP now. Something that, I mean, you could have done, which is still a little suspect, is come down to the 1 minute chart and traded this swing failure. So you have this low, and when this level is reclaimed, opening a long with a stop there. But I mean, do I really? I don't believe that this long, I mean, low is going to hold. I don't think it's likely, but anything's possible. Mark says, notice you followed some favorites. FTM, ETH, BTC. How many do you track? I don't know. I have TA on tons of alts because I do alt request live streams relatively regularly and mark out lots of high time frame levels. In fact, if we go over to my alerts, oops. Oh my goodness. If you go back and look at I think my last live stream or somewhere. Anyways, this is a major idea here on Doge. It's an important level. Down at 77 cents, 7 cents and 7 fractions of a cent. But we can look at a few of my charts. So obviously there's some important ideas here on SHIB for resistance, which I do have a short on. I actually posted yesterday that this is a high time frame level, high time frame targets for shorts on SHIB, and then a level of interest for longs, which is just coming down, sweeping the liquidity under these lows. There's something I also, I guess, coined called the predictive fib, which is you take the low and then you make the last pivot low, the 618, and that is the future pivot high. So I was looking at that as well when I was interested in shorts up here. But anyways, I look at a lot of alts. Sometimes I even forget that I have TA on alts, and then I just have alerts go off. Also, you'll notice, Henry, you're asking about TA. AR here, rejected perfectly here from the 618 retracement, about 20%. You'll notice that I have a lot of 618s on my chart. We rejected here, key horizontal, 618 retracement on BNB, the 618. Very nice fib retracements. Still Learning says, do you still look for other confluence after lows are swept like absorption, or do you just pull the trigger? Well, it should be noted, here, I'm going to pop over to it in a second. It should be noted that there's higher time frame absorption already in this range. And of course, that doesn't mean we can't see lower. It's just worth being aware of. But when you have a strong reaction, a strong volume off of a major level, you know, you're not necessarily always going to be able to see or read really low time frame divergences, although you certainly can. Like, for example, and I am a very big fan of low time divergences. I think they're super important. Like before this move down happened on Bitcoin, we saw, let me just get rid of this and resize it. We saw major bearish absorption here on a low time frame. And that's one thing I talk a lot about in the LATF is you can have high time frame divergences, but I mean, if you're seeing low time frame bearish absorption like here, where there's lots of aggressive buying pressure coming in, but price is failing to make higher highs or push up, a local move down is the most likely outcome. You see price grinding down on bearish absorption, So anyways, but that being said, you know, oops. Like when you have these really quick pivots come in at the highs here. Let me turn off volume because that's just gonna be in the way. Sometimes it's hard to rely on or read these low time frame divergences. Although I do use them, but I mean, if you were looking at divergences on a 1 minute chart, you certainly have to be very, very confident with them. So Henry is saying, yeah, I don't question that you're making money, but I just can't get my head around the idea that a predefined set of rules like TA can actually work in an adversarial environment like markets. So I guess my question is, why do you think TA works? How would you explain it? All right, I'll spend a couple minutes on this. First, TA, I wouldn't define it as a predefined set of rules. I would just define it as a set of observations about the way the market moves, and why is up to debate. But there's some really simple concepts. So would you understand the concept of a range, where why does price react here? Why does price push up into this high, reject, and then come back down to the lows of the range? And why does it do it again? And why do you see that over and over and over again? And why do you always see, for example, SHIB is a beautiful example here. If we go to the, well, let's just stay on the 4-hour chart. Why do we see these really sharp rallies right before a big dump? So we're just looking at this kind of behavior in the market. Why do we see these sharp liquidity grabs to the downside? For example, we're ranging here. This is the 4-hour chart. Why did price come down and take this low before the move started? And there's reasons for that, right? Because people put their stops there, people short breakdowns. So this is just market behavior, right? The market likes to catch you offside. That's why ranges form. Ranges being one of the most common types of price action, but one of the types of price action that chops up the most people. And those are just clean liquidity ideas. So those can be observed. So you can draw out a range. You can say you have range lows, you have range highs. Price likes to sweep the highs and move back down aggressively, sweep the lows, move back up. And then why does price sometimes move in partial retracements? Why did price make a 61.8% retracement there? Although not all retracements are 61.8%, clearly. But there's lots of key fibs, so 786, 61.8. Why did this pivot come back in at the 61.8% retracement? Because I believe there's a there's a general psychology where people will also this, and I just know some of these retracements because I took the longs. Like this one was very nice, coming down, sweeping this liquidity right into this local 61.8% fib, which is not pulled quite accurately there. I got that long right there, and I was prepared for it. Like when we were way up here, I said, hey, I'd like to see a move down into this liquidity, into this key fib for a nice long. I believe that there's also a psychology that gets people bringing their stops up to certain levels in a trend over and over again. And this price action tends to look very bearish over and over again relative price action. We see this rally and then this move down. You'll oftentimes see people end up firing shorts into these levels and closing out all their longs. Like you will see volume peak relative to the range or price action so often at these right at these key fibs. And so the question is, because you could say like, how could a fib tell you what is going to happen? It certainly can't. But tell me this, why does volume often peak on these fibs? No one's forcing people to take positions or close positions on fibs. But why do they do it? Most people don't even measure low time frame fibs. So, you know, this is what I'd say, Henry. If you're interested there's different types of TA, obviously. There's what I would consider garbage TA that I don't think has a lot of merit. But go back on a chart, it doesn't even really matter what it is, and measure retracements. And just see if there's any repeatable ideas there. The market is made up of people who are making decisions based on fear, greed, and other emotions, although people think they're trading oftentimes a quant system or something like that. They're all usually just making emotional decisions. And because of that, the decisions have the same characteristics and kind of create repeating price action. And TA sort of observes that. I like that, Omar. He says TA should be TB, trader behavior. That's very, very good. Andrew says, I really appreciated a live stream a couple months ago where you ran through some fresh charts and completed some TA from scratch. Does anyone remember which live stream that was? You know what? It's probably most of them. Any like altcoin request live stream or charting live stream, I almost always will start from scratch. Probably two live streams ago. Not the last one because that was a live trading session. But the one before that was a charting from scratch, which is where you'll find this BNB short idea and some other ideas on there. When BNB was down here, I think. But I will say, it's kind of late for me. And I have a feeling I'm going to be up in the middle of the night tonight. At the rate price action is progressing. So I wanted to start this live stream, ideally to be live when this liquidity got tapped. But, I mean, maybe it happens in a couple hours in the London session. Maybe it happens in the New York session. But I'll probably wrap up the live stream for now, just to say that I'm waiting for this liquidity to be swept. If we get a reversal, I'll just mark out new levels, you know, maybe a retest of this level, something like that. Looking for signs of strength. But otherwise waiting patiently for that to be tapped. And I'll probably sign off on the live stream. I appreciate everyone tuning in. I wish everyone the best with their positions and ideas. I'll say this, if you're watching this and you have your own system, your own ideas, you have your own TA, and maybe your entry triggers are being hit, but I'm saying something that's different, go with your plan. Don't trade my plan, trade your plan. But I would just suggest you always use risk management and, trade reasonably.